I felt called to preach actually 70 years ago. This past weekend, we celebrated 70 years in the ministry.
Wow.
And so 70 years ago, I felt called to preach. 3 months later, I'm offered a church. I was brought up in the Church of the Nazarene, a little church in Palmer, Tennessee, about 112 miles from Trevecca. My grandma bought a brand new car for me because I would need a car to travel in. So I go from Nashville down to Palmer on Friday afternoons, preach there over the weekend, come back Sunday night or Monday morning, and I'm a student at Trevecca from Monday to Friday. Well, one Monday morning, October 31st, 1955, while I'm coming down to the base of Mont Eagle, Tennessee, I could take you to the place on old US 41, just on the way to Manchester, Tennessee. I could take you to pretty near the spot when all of a sudden, never happened before or since, there is Jesus. He's right over here at my right hand. I'm driving the car, and there he is. More real to me than you are right now.
Wow.
I cannot exaggerate that. More real to me than you are.
Wow.
And he was interceding for me at the right hand of God the Father. And my first thought is how literal this is. I mean, I felt the presence of the Father behind me, and there's was Jesus. So that he was at the Father's right hand. He's literally at the right hand of the Father. And he's praying for me. I won't go into all the detail. I don't know that you would want to know all the detail, but he was praying for me. I never felt so loved
Wow.
in all my life. He was on my side, interceding. And the next thing I remember was an hour later, coming through Smyrna, Tennessee. You know where Smyrna is?
Yeah.
On old US 41. When I get to heaven, I want to see a video replay, because for the next hour, I do not know where I was.
Wow.
I would say, best guess, in the third heaven. All I know is I don't remember anything. And then as I was coming through Smyrna, I could hear Jesus say to the Father, he wants it. The voice of the Father replied, he can have it. And in that very split-second moment, the deepest joy and peace that I've ever had in my life, I didn't know you could have that. I didn't know there was. When I say peace, I don't mean absence of anxiety. I'm talking about a presence of God.
Yeah.
So wonderful. Well, when I get to Trevecca, it's now about 10 minutes till 8 on a Monday morning. It's all started at around 6:15, 6:30, and I go to my room, I shave. My first class is at 8 o'clock, and all day long, I kept asking, what is that? What was that? Before the day was over, my theology changed. I thought I saw something new that nobody had seen before, and what I was being shown was altogether different from the way I've been brought up.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if you want to go there. I don't mind going there, but I might say some things that you would struggle with. I don't know. But all I can tell you is that I was ushered into the presence of God, and for 10 months, I wish I could say forever, but after 10 months, it subsided.
Yeah.
The sense of his presence, and I had visions, 10, 11, 12 visions that foretold my future. And so it was just a new world for me. However, I should tell you that because of my change of theology, and it meant a different denomination, my grandmother took the car back because I wasn't going to be a Nazarene anymore. By the way, I have only the deepest respect for my background, so I don't want anybody to think I'm putting down my old denomination. In fact, I'll tell you something. Do you know who Martin Lloyd-Jones was, Dr. Martin Lloyd-Jones? Well, he was the pastor of Westminster Chapel for 30 years. He put me there. He chose me to follow him. And but Dr. Lloyd-Jones used to say to me, don't forget your Nazarene background. He said that is what has saved you.
Wow.
And what he meant by that, not just that I was saved in the Church of the Nazarene, but the way they emphasized an experience with God is what kept me from being cold, dead, like so many of the preachers that he knew about. And he said it's what saved you from being like that. Well, now you ask, transition. You see, that happened almost 70 years ago. Now, the transition that you may be referring to, some think it's after I had Arthur Blessed at Westminster Chapel. He turned us upside down. I don't know where to begin, where to start, where to end. I don't know that it was a transition. It was in the eyes of people.
Yeah.
But with me, I just walked in the light.
Yeah. I had something similar happen when I was in college. I was worshiping in my living room in this little apartment that I had, and I had the lights off, and I was laying on this beanbag, and I felt like Jesus walked in the room is what it felt like. You know, I can't say he was physically there, but it felt like he walked in the room, and I was overwhelmed with this sense of love, a deeper love than I'd ever felt before in my life. And I equate it to that scene in the Bible. In some translations talk about Lydia. It says that she was filled with the surge of hospitality. And I felt like I was filled with the surge of God's love, that I was getting these marching orders from my life, that if I could experience this love, I have, this mandate on my life to bring it and usher it into other people's lives as well, that maybe they would encounter God's love in that same way. And I don't know what it was, if I had to define it, other than a yieldedness to him, a willingness to set aside time to worship in the secret place, and desire that whatever way God wanted to reveal himself to me, he could. I don't know. I think that's maybe how I would describe it. You think that's fair?
Could be. I think God can deal with each of us in a unique way. There doesn't have to be a precedent for it. I would want there to be a precedent in the Bible, but you may run into people who have strange or different experiences. I've just learned God comes in different ways and in surprising ways and ways that don't make sense. Mm-hmm. And I've learned just not to judge, because no one would have believed what I've just told you.
Yeah.
I've had people question it, pick it to pieces. It's okay. It was so real to me that I would never doubt it if I lived to be 100.
Yeah.
It was so real. And I could go on, but I don't want to.
Well, I'm curious about some of those visions that you had. Do they continue to this day? Was it just in that 10-month season?
Almost entirely in that 10-month season. I've had one or two in the last few years, but nothing lately. But in 1956, see, that experience took place in October 1955. In several months into March, April, I remember in my room at Trevecca, my dormitory, I had a vision, and I'm in a church, and I somehow think it's in Ohio, but I don't know where it is. And it's a small church, theater seats, center aisle, windows on the right, but no windows on the left. And in walks my father down the middle aisle. He was wearing a mint green suit. He walks to the front and turns, and then goes back. That was the end of the vision. That made no sense. In 1962, in July 1962, I accept a pastorate of this church in Ohio, Carlisle, Ohio, north of Cincinnati, south of Dayton. And when I see the church, windows on the right, theater-like seats, center aisle, no windows on the left. And on the following Saturday, after I'd been there a couple of weeks, my dad phoned. He said, "I'm coming to hear you preach Sunday." I said, "Good." I said to Louise, he'll be wearing a mint green suit. You watch. He came to the house, handed me on a hanger his suit, and I just hung it in the closet and said, I'll wear that tomorrow. The next day, I knew it would happen. I wasn't going to make it happen. After the service, here comes my father walking down the middle aisle, turns to the right, and goes back into vision. Why? I know why. That church threw me out months later. They didn't like my preaching. They just wanted me gone. And I stayed 18 months. I will always know I was in God's will.
Yeah.
It was a failure, but God was with me. And so I had other visions. This, in 1956, I had a vision of seeing me preach in New York City. I thought, New York City? Me? A Nazarene? We never thought outside the box. I'd just get a church in Nashville or Kentucky, where I'm from originally. And 4 years ago, a friend of mine, Tim Delina, had read my book, Jonah. He's called to be the pastor of Times Square Church. And as I speak, I've probably been there 20 or 30 times.
Wow.
And I'm going 6 times this year. New York City. See, I couldn't have thought of anything like that. And while we're at it, I'll just tell you one more. I had a vision of great revival that went around the world. And the message was, Jesus is coming soon, and everybody believed it. It went around the world. Well, I saw it. I was in it. Now, I don't guarantee that it will happen while I'm alive, but I'd like to think I'm still alive. I'm 89 years old, and I'm in pretty good health. I see no reason why, unless it were to take place a long time from now, it gives me hope that while I'm alive, I'll see it. But even if I don't see it myself, it's coming. It's coming. So that all happened as a result of that original time with the Holy Spirit on October 31st, 1955. Mm-hmm. I can't say I have visions today. I'd like to. But in those days, I saw the face of Jesus. He would show up at odd times. I could actually, in 2 cases, remember how I was looking at a person and see Jesus looking at them and could tell you the spiritual aptitude of that person by the face of Jesus. That didn't last long.
Yeah.
But it was real that I know that that kind of thing that can happen.